Narayanam namaskritam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayo dhyarayat nashna prayashu bhadresu nityam bhagavata sevya bhagavati utamashuki bhaktir bhavati naishtiki nigama kaparurgaritam param shukamakaram ritadravishamitam pibata bhagacham rashamarayam mahorahorasi bhuvivakaham Krishna sadam upagate damigan he karunashtadhyamesha paranakodinoditaham Tamapi adabhishuddha vishuddham vibhu samapyatayana vidam vidvitadam prakyahiduho maradhiram sanklesha nirvanam asanti nanyataham Anartavashamam shakshad bhakti yogam lokasudhanam chakra chatpada samitam Krishna sadhum apagate damagini karonashtadu shamasha paranako duno ditaham Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kantara Kantamostute Jayatam Surito Pango Mahamadir Matirgati Matsava Shupadam Bojo Radha Madanamonam Siman Rasara Saram Yavam Sibada Karsan Bene Sanugaviri Gopinata Sriyasanam Divyad Bindaranyaka Badrumada Srimad Ratnagara Shima Sanisto Sri Sri Radha Shiva Govinda Deva Prashtadabhi Seva Manush Marami Om Magyana Timirandasya Gana Gana Saraka Chaksurun Meditam Yena Tajmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutade Swayam Rupa Karamayam Darati Swaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Siyata Parakamaram Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sagaditam Sahagana Raganatam Vidam Stam Sadevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sayatam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Ladita Shivishikan Vidam Sham Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pasaya Bhutare Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvadi Pacharine Nirvishesa Sanyavadi Paskata Desara Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaur Bhaktivindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Welcome to Wisdom Wednesday, and this is our 10th segment in discussing the 22nd verse, 5th chapter, first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. We'll finish up. This isn't a record. I believe it was one previous verse that we discussed it 12 separate times, but this is maybe number 2 in terms of longevity. We could go on, but Wednesday is a nice day to wind it up. After all, we've taken a lot of juice out of this verse already, and so let's not be too greedy. Move on to the next one with a new week, next Motivational Monday. But thanks for hanging with us, Jean, as well as Govinda Dave, Prabhuji, Haribo, my better half, Bhai Bobby. Sat and listened to Bhai Bobby preach to a group of Mormon girls, about 20 girls and a few teachers last night. Wow, she did a great job. She did a great job. She looked so elegant, dressed in a sari with her new short haircut, and she was so articulate. Her examples were very good and aptly delivered. I was proud of her as I sat there, and that's my wife preaching there. Rakesh, please have my obeisances, all glories to Prabhupada. Sanjay Sharma, Brent has volunteered enthusiastically to help with the upcoming Festival of Color. You see some scenes from previous year's Color festivals. They are behind me. Brent, if it's all right with you, I'm going to pair you with Joshua Thomas, and you guys can supervise the trash volunteers. If you don't mind, get your contact number to me if you can, so that we can put it out on WhatsApp and have people liaise with you and Joshua as far as keeping the festival area clean during the celebrations. I make multiple announcements from the stage so that people will be conscientious about not throwing things on the floor and using the trash bins, and they're for the most part effective. But still, there are certain areas that are outside the reach of my voice, and then we have to pay attention to them so that everyone can enjoy the festival. The newly arrived people late in the afternoon or on the second day, Sunday, need to come into a pristine, clean, trash-free environment. And so, Brent, if you're ready and willing to bear that leadership role along with Joshua, that would be super. Christina, Hari Krishna, all the way from France. For those that will not be able to physically make the Festival of Colors on September 25th and 26th, we're trying something we've never tried before. We have a Facebook page called Festival of Colors Spanish Fork Live Feed. So for $9, you get a ticket and an exclusive link where you can tune in during the festival to our own special reporter who's going to get good shots from behind the stage and behind the artists of all the entertainment, interview the artists, so that even if Brett says, sounds good, all right, glad to hear it. Even if you're at the festival, you might want to consider this too, to get access to places and artists and people in the festival that you would not otherwise get access to being there live in person. There's been an interesting phenomenon, proliferation of Holy Festival colors, Spanish Fork at Facebook. We did a search last night, found 17 different ones of them, only 2 of which are authorized. So something we're dealing with here as we come down the home stretch. Also, people putting in the comment section they have tickets for sale. They don't have tickets for sale. They just want you to send your money, and they don't have any ticket to give you. It's the latest version of event scams. So never a dull moment here in Krishna consciousness, especially in Spanish Fork, Utah. And we're going to try and liven it up here, especially since this is our denouement. This is our wrap up, our concluding session on this wonderful verse, again from the 5th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Idam hi pum sas tapasas vitashiva svitasya shuktasya chaburi avitato ditya kavibira yadu tamashoka gananavara. Once again, for the last time, learned circles have positively concluded that the infallible purpose of the advancement of knowledge, namely austerity, study of Vedas, sacrifice, chanting of hymns, and charity, culminates in the transcendental descriptions of the Lord, who is defined in choice poetry. And the Chaitanya Charita Krishna Das covers once again says, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Daya Kari Vichara Kari Chate Pabe Chamatkara. If you're a logician, if you're an intellectual, if you're gifted with a higher than average intellectual powers and prowess, then bring your intellectualism, bring your logic, your rationality to bear upon the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And if you do, you will find it to be strikingly wonderful. We quoted this verse yesterday. We ended yesterday's session with this amazing verse by Maharaj Prithu from the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's not only full of import and meaning, but it's extremely poetic and extremely evocative. So that verse, which we ended yesterday's session with your permission, I'd like to begin today's session with it. Take it as our launching point, jumping off point for Wisdom Wednesday. This is the 25th verse in the 20th chapter of the 4th canto. Sa utamashoga mahan mokya chuta bavad padambaja sudha kanadira shmitim pana vishamri tatpavaramam kuyoginam na vitarati alambarai. My Lord, and this is again Prithu Maharaj, you are glorified by the selected verses uttered by great personalities. Such glorification of your lotus feet is like saffron particles. When the transcendental vibration from the mouths of the great devotees carries the aroma of saffron dust of your lotus feet, the forgetful living entity gradually remembers his eternal relationship with you. Devotees thus gradually come to the right conclusion about the value of life. My dear Lord, I do not need any other benediction but the opportunity to hear from the mouth of your pure devotee. Something that's interesting about this verse, aside from its sheer beauty and depth of devotion, is that if you take a careful look at it, some of the activities of the senses are spilling over, overlapping, overflowing into the others. Did you notice that? Glorification for your lotus feet is just like saffron particles. Glorification of your lotus feet is oral, right? We glorify the Lord with our words and our mouths. And yet that glorification is compared to saffron particles. Now, saffron is a very valuable herb. It's said to be pound for pound more valuable than gold because of its wonderful aroma and its wonderful flavor. So oral is vibration, has nothing to do with eating. And yet saffron is probably the most valuable, the most sought after spice in the world. It's one of the reasons why Christopher Columbus struck off from Portugal. It's one of the reasons why Marco Polo went overland to India, because they wanted the spices of India, foremost of which was saffron. But saffron is something to do with smell and something to do with eating. And yet the glorification of the Lord has to do with speaking, not smelling or eating. But when you speak the glories of the Lord, in other words, when you do Shravanam Kirtanam, it envelops, it intrudes upon the other senses. That means to say that from speaking, from Kirtanam, the other senses mature and develop. An example is given. If you have a tree, like our neighbor Frank has, actually, we bought his house. So he's our neighbor in terms of physical location. Anyway, never mind. On Frank's house that he owned for many years, which we bought, there's a pear tree, there's a plum tree, and there's a peach tree. Okay, so whenever any one pear, one plum, or one peach is mature and ripe and tasty, and oh my gosh, they're like nectar, we can safely assume that there are other mature, tasty, relishable plums and pears and fruits as well, isn't it? The appearance of one mature fruit indicates it's not the only one. There are others that mature simultaneously with or shortly thereafter that first fruit. So similarly, once you develop a rati, a taste, an attachment for hearing about the glories of the Lord by your using your tongue and your ears, the other senses are going to come to fruition very, very quickly. Your eyes, your nose, and your sense of touch. And there's going to be less and less of a differentiation between them. The Lord himself has such a transcendental body that he's described by Lord Brahma, the Brahma Sita, Om. How is that verse? Ananyasha sakalendriya vritimanti pasyanti panti kauyanti chiram jiganti anadachanmaya shaduj vala vigracham govindam aripurusham tamham vajami. Lord Brahma addresses Krishna personally by name, Govinda, indicating that he has feelings just as much as we have feelings. He has a form just as much as we have form. In fact, our form and our feelings have no other origin than the Lord's form and feelings. The Lord's form, however, is unique in that any one of the senses can perform the full-fledged functions of any other sense. That means he can speak with his eyes. He can eat with his ears. He can smell with his fingertips. There's no differentiation between the various senses of the Lord. That's the indication that his body is spiritual. It's the same inside and outside. Now we're spirit, living entities, parts and parcels of the Lord, but because we're tiny, we, unlike the Lord, tend to become enveloped, incarcerated in matter. So God is a supreme energetic. We're an energy. Matter is an energy. Now the energetic can never become overcome by its energy. So the Lord is never eclipsed or affected or conditioned by matter. But we are qualitatively one with the Lord. We're like a particle of sunshine that contains light and heat. But unlike the sun glow, we don't have the power of the sun. So a particle of sunshine can become covered by a cloud, whereas the sun itself can never become covered by a cloud. I hope this point is clear to all of you out there. So that explains our entrance into this material world and our being covered by the Lord's inferior, illusory material energy. So in this material body, which we've gotten as a result of our separation from the Lord, our senses are limited and differentiated. We can only see with our eyes, we can hear with our ears, we can smell with our nose, we can taste and speak with our tongue, and we can only touch with our fingertips. But the Lord has no such limitations. He's not a spirit inside of a material form. He's spirit through and through. Advaitam achyutam anadim anantarupam ajamparanam purusho navyonutam vedashuddharabhamadharma govindam aripurusham tamaham bhajami. He is Advaitam. There is no difference between his inside and his outside. So his senses are non-differentiated. Any one sense can perform the full-fledged function of the other senses. Now, as you become Krishna conscious, as from within this material body, your spiritual form starts to blossom and unfold. It says, Akshno phalam tadisha darshanam, Tano phalam tadisha gatasangam, Jiva phalam tadisha kirtanam, Sudurlabhata bhagavatahi loke. As your eyes become more and more addicted to seeing the Lord, as your ears become more and more addicted to chanting and hearing the Bhagavatam, as your tongue becomes more and more addicted to speaking, the result is that from within, the spiritual body begins to blossom and to grow and mature. And your senses begin to reflect the limitlessness of the senses of the Lord. So we see that symptom here in a pure devotee of the Lord Mars Prekyu. He's not differentiating between tasting, smelling, and speaking. The glorification of your lotus feet is just like saffron particles. Here you see an overlap, a combining of the various sensual experiences. And he goes on here. He says, when the transcendental vibration from the mouths of the great devotees carries the aroma of saffron dust. So their speaking is the prime sensual activity here. But that speaking is experienced by pure devotees, not only by hearing, but by smelling. They can smell the words of glorification. In other words, all their senses have become awakened, enlivened. And it was as if before they were just sleepwalking, experiencing things very dimly, as if through a colored glass. Prithu continues, devotees thus gradually come to the right conclusion about the value of life, that I am not this material body. My original, pure, pristine, wholesome, healthy state is not to be conditioned, is not to have differentiated senses, is not to have any limitations, but like the Lord, so far as my capabilities allow, I am unlimited. I am free to travel like Sunarji, unlimitedly within the spiritual and material worlds by the grace of the Lord. Naraji's own testimony, Bahiran tash chalokam sri pariyemesh kandita, anugrahen mayamanam pratishtam dishamitaram. Narada Muni got the association of great saints and sages during the months of Chaturmas, when they're more or less stationary. They dedicate themselves to staying in one place, increasing their chanting and hearing, reducing their bodily affairs like eating, sleeping, shaving, and things like that. Narada Muni, as a young boy, was fortunate enough to be amongst such great transcendental saints. And so he says, Uchishta lepana namadhyata shakricha buddhyatarapash evam prabhitasha vishuddhicheta tadarme bhatmajivakayade. Just by taking the remnants of foodstuffs from those great bhaktivedantas, those great paramahamsas, he developed what awakened in him was a desire, a taste, an addiction for hearing the glories of the Lord. He didn't want to hear anything else other than the glories of the Lord. You come up to me and you want to talk to me about politics, Democrats, Republicans, you want to talk to me about the economic status, you want to talk to me about COVID, and I'm just going to start getting a 1,000-yard stare. Most devotees are going to react in the same way. Prabhupada once said, the way to know that you're starting to make advancement in Krishna consciousness, sometimes we read the books, we chant, we surround ourselves with devotional indications, and our friends become more and more devotees, and we don't realize how much advancement we're making until we happen to overhear some non-devotees in the seat in front of us on the plane, or the seat in back of us in the bus, or some people talking at the next table at the cafeteria at work. And we realize all of a sudden we have no interest in that whatsoever. We've totally lost our taste for mundane complaints and mundane gossip. That means that, unbeknownst to you, you've made rapid advancement in devotional service. Speaking of sitting on a plane, we've all had the experience, those who are frequent travelers. You're in the plane, the safety features are gone over by the hostesses, the announcements are made by the pilot, you're chanting or reading a Bhagavatam, or if you're not a devotee, you're reading a magazine, or open your laptop, catching up with something. And let's say you have a window seat. So all of a sudden, you look out the window, and without it having registered with you, without your having noticed it, you're up there 10,000 feet and you don't even remember the takeoff or the ascension. You're just up above the clouds, and it just seems to have happened all of a sudden because you didn't take note of the various stages which resulted in your being so elevated. Sometimes we chant and we go online and we relish talks and association of devotees, and more in our life we kind of distance ourselves from materialistic people, and we attracted more and more to saintly righteous people. We don't realize how much progress we're making until one day we just happen to overhear a conversation in which we have absolutely no interest whatsoever. What does that mean? You lost your taste for matter. You got a higher taste. Vishaya vinavartate narashana rashamabhichana param drishta vijayate. You got a higher taste. Your senses are starting to regain their original spiritual quality. You're beginning to smell more intensely, to see more intensely, to hear more intensely. The taste of the prasadam, that experience is more intense. Your speaking now is not just the babbling, the nonsense, whatever garbage happens to come from your mouth. Your speaking is conscious. You're putting now your mind in gear before you put your mouth in gear. Your speech is deliberate. It's conscious. You're deciding, is this speech going to help promote my Krishna consciousness, or does this have nothing to do with my Krishna consciousness? For that transformation, those kinds of changes in one's life, which are going to reverberate in our family, our relatives, our co-workers for the better, those are attributable to the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishnadas Kaviraj says to those people who are uppercut, if you like mercy, if you like logic, if you like argument, if you like to measure and register and note and research powerful, extraordinary phenomena in this material world, then you must not omit. You must address your logic, your argument, your intellect to the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And if you are actually a seeker, if you're actually sincere, if you're actually interested in how the divine manifests itself in this phenomenal material world, most especially how the mercy of the Lord makes itself apparent, then you will come to the right conclusion that there is no personality more merciful than Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He has come down as the Supreme Personality of Godhead from his own transcendental abode, Goloka Vrindavan, into Navadvip Dham, state of Bengal, as the son of Sachi Mata and Jagannath Mishra. Vairaga Vidya Nijabhak Shikshartam Eka Purushan. God himself is teaching us Shikshartam Purushaparanam. He is the original person. He is the same Govinda that Lord Brahma 311 trillion years ago prayed to in order to get the wherewithal to create this universe. That same Govinda, who is Ishvara Parama Krishna, the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, he has come down in the guise of a devotee, assuming the golden color of Srimati Radharani and adopting the saffron cloth of the renunciate. He ascends and walks amongst us with the sole purpose of distributing his mercy, regardless of who it is, what their background, their gender, their ethnicity, their qualifications. Namo Mahabharanaya Krishna Paramadaya Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane. Who can be more merciful? All the incarnations of God, which tend to be by nature merciful and kind, who can be more merciful than Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the golden avatar? Krishna Vanatita Krishnam Sangha Yaga Sankataram Yajanti Pishumedasha. Krishna came in this current age of Kali Yuga not in the blackish color of monsoon cloud, but in the golden color of Srimati Radharani. While we're mentioning Srimati Radharani, next Monday, the 15th, gosh, I don't know what my dates are right now. Next Monday, there will be a wonderful celebration of Radhastami in the Salt Lake City Temple beginning from 6 o'clock. So put that on your calendar, and if you're at all able to go there, please do so. They also broadcast all of those celebrations online as well. Our Ras Vilas will give a talk on Srimati Radharani. So it is said in the first canto, 5th chapter, 40th verse, which we've not yet progressed to. We will get to this probably in a month or two. It's 18 verses beyond the one we're discussing. So who knows how long it will take us to do 18 verses when we've done 10 sessions alone on this one verse. But anyway, we're not in a hurry. We're not. When you're eating mango, are you in a hurry to finish? Or not, are you? Anyone ever scarf down mango? I know I don't. What is mango? And the watermelon right now, and we've got some honeydew melons and cantaloupe melons from our garden. Oh my gosh. They are out of this world. You put it in your mouth and you just let it melt in your mouth and you close your eyes and you literally shiver at the mercy of God. And even though we've turned our backs, we've denied God, we've been indifferent to Him, He still doesn't begrudge us the nutrients that we need. And not only are they nutritionally valuable, not only do they maintain our body and soul together, but they're so delicious. He didn't have to do that. He could have just given us, some grits or some hominy, or some poha. These guys are off course. They don't care for me. And so they're my children. And I have to maintain them, but I'm not going to go out of my way to give them anything opulent or sweet or luscious or anything like that. I'll just give them the basics, let them suffer for not being with me in the spiritual world. I'll bring them back by making conditions in the material world so bare and threadbare and scarce that they'll be forced to come back to the opulences of the spiritual world. Krishna he's not small-minded. He's large-minded. He's generous. He's open-handed, even to those who do not acknowledge Him. He gives us mangoes. He gives us blueberries, strawberries, watermelons, honeydew, and cantaloupe. And if you're lucky enough to have produced those from your own garden and then offered to Krishna, it just doesn't get any better than that. It just doesn't get any better than that. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has appeared as Krishna's devotional incarnation, and He didn't speak big philosophy. He did not present Himself as a philosopher. He trained up Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Prakasananda Saraswati, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, 6 Goswamis. They all wrote many, many books. The highest philosophy, the highest logic, the highest reasoning, bringing it all to bear on the Chinta Kaloya Bhavanatam Sarkena, the inconceivable potency of the Lord. Good morning, Rob. How are you? So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu presented Himself not as a scholar, not as an intellectual, even though He was the teacher of these great big colossuses like Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami and Vaipraksa Jiva Goswami and Baladev Vidyabhusan, and even he's the incarnation. He's the intellect behind Vyasadeva, the compiler of the Vedas. Lord Chaitanya just addressed Himself. He comported Himself as He would like us to comport ourselves. And what was His main business? It wasn't giving big lectures, philosophizing. I wasn't writing books. It was just chanting, having His own private time in the morning to chant His japa, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then as the sun rises, going out amongst the people in general and chanting Hare Krishna, sponsoring big feasts of vegetarian prasad. So Lord Chaitanya's movement is unique, super excellent, because of its scope, because of its depth, and because it's for everybody. This is the verse. Tvam api adabhushuta vishudam Samyapi yena vidambi bhuttara. Prakyahi duhur muhurdari. Sanklesha nirvanam usanti nanyata. Nanyata means nobody is left out, not even the dogs, not even the cats. Everybody is eligible to become Krishna conscious if they come within the range of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's process of chanting Hare Krishna and taking prasadam. Here in Spanish Fork, nothing goes to waste. We cook the food, we offer it at the noon arti, and we distribute it. Visitors come from all over. They come off of I-15 from all over the country, all over the world. And generally speaking, they take advantage of the very reasonably priced $8 buffet. And sometimes they can't eat everything on their plate. So we encourage them, take them out and give the prasadam to the llamas, to the peacocks, to the chicken, to the ants. Just throw it on the ground. Don't put prasadam in the trash to be compacted or whatever. Let the living entities, the birds, the sparrows, the magpies, the doves that co-inhabit the property, the ants, the bugs, let them all, or even if the prasadam is not eaten, but it just goes back into the ground, and then it becomes parts of the grasses that are, again, grow on the property. Prasadam should never be wasted. It's so potent. It's meant for everybody. Lord Chaitanya's movement is non-sectarian. Namnami kaha bahudad and yijasara shaktis tatapita nimata shmaranedaka. Etadushi tava kripa bhavanati dordaiv mitishami jani. You don't have to have any qualifications. You don't have to have a background of high birth or piety or austerity or intellectualism. Krishna consciousness is for everyone. The chanting, the prasadam, no one is restricted. No one is barred. Aho bhatta shrapacho yogariya najavarte bhatitam te pushte put te brahmanacha nama grinati. Yanamadida shravanir kadarad yad pravana yad shmarani sadyopi shadyo kutapanas te bhagavana darshan. Kutapanas, how wonderful it is that even if born in the family of the dog eaters, after having called out to Krishna heartfeltedly, one is capable of performing Vedic sacrifices. One who chants the name of Lord Krishna and who surrenders heartfeltly before Krishna, even if they were born in a family of dog eaters. Is it not wonderful that they are elevated up to the level of a Mahabharata, a great devotee of the Lord? Whereas Brahmins, by birth, by training, by qualification, mantra, tantra, vishada, vaishnava, yea, Krishna tattva deva shidram. Even Brahmins who are expert in chanting all the hymns, if they're not Krishna devotees, then they are not qualified to be spiritual masters. And even the son of a dog eater who's chanting Hare Krishna faithfully is qualified to be a spiritual master. And those spiritual masters can be a light, a guide to people in general. The nectar flowing from Krishna Katha, from Srimad Bhagavatam, from Mahabharata, from Ramayana, flowing down from since ancient times, transported from generation to generation through the oral tradition of hearing and chanting, Shravanam, Smaranam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, from one great sage to another, coming down into the present generation. That will satisfy the hankerings of great learned men, but not only that, it will also mitigate the miseries of the masses who are always suffering from material pangs. Indeed, there is no way to get out of such miseries. Shukadeva Goswami says to Maharaj Parikshit in the 8th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 12th chapter, 46th verse, Etan mahu kritiyato nushrinbato, kirtiyato shrinbato, hearing and chanting. Narishate jatu samudra kavach. When you submerge yourself in the ocean of hearing and chanting, it's like churning the ocean of milk. It's just like what the demigods and demons did in ancient days. They churned the ocean of milk using the Mandala mountain as the churning rod, Vashuki as the rope, Korma as the tortoise to hold up the mountain, Krishna and Garuda to keep the mountain from wobbling. As the demigods and demons churned the ocean of milk in ancient times in order to get nectar, Amrita, deathlessness. Similarly, those who hear and chant the glories of the Lord coming down through the disciplic session of great realized souls, they are also in their own way churning the ocean of milk, the result of which is they're going to get nectar. They're going to become immortal. When we offer Chaturmita in the temple, we do it with this mantra. Kalamita Chataram Sarva Vanasina Vishnu Patodikam Sirasya Daryami Aham. I'm giving you this nectar, these drops of liquid from the lotus feet of the Lord. They will bring, sipping which you become deathless, you become immortal. Said that in this world, everyone is afraid of death. Most of everything that everyone does is motivated by a fear of death. Death is motivating everybody to do what they do. Everyone is being chased. Everyone is in fear of death. Death strikes terror into the hearts of all living beings. Death is the great axe which cuts them away from their bank balance, their children, their grandchildren, their spouses, casts them into darkness. Death is anathema to materialistic people. Death is the bitter end. And yet death himself is afraid of Krishna. Death backs off when death sees Krishna devotees. Dhruva Maharaj is a typical example of a materialist. Materialists are very reluctant, they're loath to give up their activities of sense gratification to take up Krishna consciousness. They're afraid to waste time. They're afraid that the chanting of Hare Krishna and taking a prasadam associate is wasting time. Their goal is to get money, get sense gratification, get ahead, get prestige, name, and fame. Nonam pramata kurute vikarma. And in order to get these advantages, in order to get the materialistic edge up or leg up over the competitors of whom they are envious, they perform all kinds of sinful activities, being mad after sense gratification, and they will never pause in their relentless pursuit of material acquisitions to listen, to sit down and listen to the glories of the Lord from the mouths of pure devotees. They will never agree to do that. And yet, the process of hearing and chanting is so powerful that it can arrest the mad rush of the materialists towards temporary fruits and goals. It can purify the consciousness of the materialistic person away from envy, away from lustiness, away from competitiveness again. This Bhava Shoda, Bhava Roga, this oceanic process of hearing and chanting, this limitless process, Gunatmanas tebi gunadvimatam hitava nishakara kalena yava upam savedam. As I said before, the scientists may one day count the number of sands on the beach. They may know how many stars are in the sky. They may know how many atoms in the universe, but they'll never come to the end of the limitless qualities and glories of the Lord. And not only is it limitless, not only is it unconditionally relishable, but it is in fact the only medicine to stop the repetition of birth and death, delivered by none other than the personality of God in himself. Prabhupada writes, the cycle of repeated birth and death by which one takes on different bodies again and again is called bhava or bhava roga. If anyone, willingly or unwillingly, consider Dhruva, the archetypical materialist. He went into the forest searching out God, not for pure devotional service, not to become weaned of materialism, but to get a kingdom greater than his grandfather, Lord Brahma. There was no one who had more materialistic desires than Dhruva. And this is a 5-year-old boy. He was just getting started. So no one was more materialistic at the age of, what 5-year-old boy do you know that wants to control a universe? They just want to get, a Nintendo, an Xbox, or they want to get a Lego set or something. Dhruva Maharaj was far more ambitious than that. He wanted sovereignty over an area greater than that of his Lord Brahma. And yet, look what happened to him. Akama, Sarva, Kama, Moksha, Kama, Tivrena, Bhaktinam, Yajitam, Parusha. The chanting and hearing of the names of the Lord from the authorized sources was so powerful that Dhruva Maharaj completely changed his priorities. He threw off all of his materialistic desires, goals, and ambitions, and in the end, he was ashamed of that for which he had longed, of the reasons for which he had originally approached the Lord, because in the process, hearing and chanting the names of the Lord, he had given up. He had matured beyond all material desires and goals and ambitions. And when the Lord finally appeared before him and awarded him the sovereignty of the pole star and virtually eternal life, the Lord Dhruva was ashamed. Shami Kritarto Shmibara. He said, "My dear Lord, I'm ashamed that I approached you for sense gratification, for something temporary, for something materialist, when you, in fact, Teshamaham Smutam Ritu Samsharasha Babami Nacha Mayaveshara." Krishna declares himself for those who keep in first place by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. He says, "I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death." So you got two oceans. You can swim lost and adrift in the ocean of sense gratification, vulnerable, subject to the tossings and turnings of the waves and to the attacks of sharks and tumangilas. Or your option is you can take shelter under the munificent, well-wishing devotees of the Lord who work under the supervision of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to make available to every man, woman, and child the ocean of Krishna Katha, the ocean of nectar of chanting Hare Krishna. Mahamanita Magna Chitta Soti Tato Vimukta Chedasha. Prahlad Maharaj says, why would I waste my valuable time running after phantasmagoria? If I tell you a horse lays eggs in the sky, will you believe it? Not for a second. You wouldn't waste a moment. So similarly, all material inducements, the flowery words of the Vedas, life on the heavenly planets, heavenly enjoyment, these are all phantasmagoria. They're as meaningful. They resonate in the hearts of pure devotees as much as eggs of a horse, flowers in the sky. You don't even waste a moment to consider, is that for me? Should I try for that? Mahamanita Magna. Prahlad Maharaj said, I don't want anything in this material world. I only want to go on hearing and chanting your holy names, because when I do so, I submerge myself in an ocean of bliss. Similarly, Dhruva Maharaj, the arch materialist, was able to throw over totally and completely and irrevocably his previous desires and inclinations and hankerings and appetites and absorb himself in the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. And Prabhupada says too of his young disciples, when Prabhupada came to America in the teeth of the hippie movement, the youth of America were pretty much sold out to drugs, illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and LSD. And within a few days after coming and taking shelter at the lotus feet of Prabhupada in the Lower East Side of New York, in the East Village, in the Haight-Ashbury, they gave up totally and forever those habits of meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, and gambling. Why? Because Krishna consciousness is so potent that it gave them a higher taste, a full satisfaction for which they had been anxious for who knows how many previous lifetimes. Cheto tarpanam artanam babadevagni nirvapanam sriya kayara vichandikaram vidyavada jivanam anandam buddhi vardhanam pratiparam purnamritashvadanam sarvatma shnapanam param vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. The Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, param vijayate, delivers for the taking the ultimate victory of the spirit soul over the miserable materialistic conditions of birth, death, disease, and old age. We get the opportunity, by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the disciplic succession, transferring ourselves from the dangerous, lethal ocean of material sense gratification of repeated birth, death, disease, and old age, transmigrating from lower to higher species of life, traveling from upper to lower planets in the material world, interminably, miserably, to submerging ourselves, to diving into that unlimited ocean of Krishna consciousness. Ayam Tvatkatam Nisha Pyushadam Manopanana Kleshadamagni Navyum. The verse is given that just like an elephant in a forest fire, he's burned, he's scorching, he's miserable. He comes across and trying to avoid the horrible suffering of the fire on his skin. He comes across a deep lake in the middle of that conflagration, and then he eases himself into the lake. He gets total relief from all of his suffering. So our appeal to you is purpose of all these Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, online, in person, and festivals, programs, and art teas, temples, is just to invite you on behalf of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please take advantage of the relieving, cooling, healing waters of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare. Behind me are some people who are doing exactly that, willingly or unwillingly. Anyone who chants Krishna consciousness following the footsteps of Dhruva Maharaj is so powerful. The taste is so great. The joy is so overwhelming and life transforming that you're never the same afterwards. So that concludes our threesome of sessions for this particular week. Motivational Monday, Transcendental Tuesday, and Wisdom Wednesday. And so much appreciative for the comments. Jai Radhe. She says, I made friends with the superintendent of death in his form of Vidura. He's one of my favorite characters in Krishna Leela. In this way, he helps us to find the souls who are getting ready to go back to home, back to Godhead. He's talking about Vidura. Vidura was always there with advice, with focus, with clarity for his brother. And in fact, if we read the words of Vidura as personal advice to ourselves, we'll get direction. Vidura is none other than death himself, who is not fearful for the devotees. Rather, he becomes our friend, our facilitator, and our guru. Jai Shri Radhe, in another comment, she says, everyone is more interested to work hard day and night so they can sleep in their apartment at night when they could live day and night to work for Krishna. Yeah, people knock themselves out for money and sense gratification. They come home at night for sex and sleeping, and they get up in the morning, they do the whole thing over again. Whereas if you use that same work ethic to try to please Krishna, every day is an adventure. You tap into a reservoir of unlimited pleasure and experience life as a thrill in every moment. Subhadra, thank you very much for joining us once again. You've been quite regular. We're appreciative of that. Divya Joshi, Hare Krishna Divya Joshi. Skipping my morning walk for this, though I need to walk badly physically, we'll do the walk after in the smoldering heat. So that's a sacrifice that Jai Shri Radhe made to be with us. She's going to do her job in the heat and the humidity of Florida. Gary, Hare Krishna, all glories to Prabhupada. Shukshma, our Parvakacharini. She used to be found in different parts of the United States on any given day. Brent, he's endorsed the proposition that he and Joshua combined together to do the trash and the Festival of Colors coming up later this month. Certainly appreciate it. I knew that you would do whatever we asked you. In fact, it's the most glorious service. He who is lowest will be made the highest. Govinda Dev usually does it, but he'll be visiting his father on the East Coast. His father's 100 years old, and he doesn't want to miss a chance to see him. Hasn't seen him for 2 years. So Govinda Dev usually does the trash. He's a lawyer, he's a Yale graduate, he usually does the trash, so he knows where the nectar lies. He's no dummy. If you are a lawyer, if you are a Yale graduate, just consider the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which you can attain very easily by seeing that the temple grounds are cleaned up nicely during the chanting of Hare Krishna at the annual Festival of Colors. Has a little spin on our theme today. Sanjay, Hare Krishna. Rakesh, always a joy. I call Rakesh Chi because I feel special affection in my heart for him and all his families. Bye Bobby, thank you so much, Bye Bobby, for millions and millions of things. That's it, Gene. Thanks it. We'll sign off today. We'll be back with you next Monday. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Next Monday will be Radhastami also, by the way. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare